SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, man on a mission. The Attorney General calls for vigorous sentencing.
You have to instill the fear of crime. That can only happen if the system can deliver justice.
Inadequate returns. Is it time to do away with coconut and rubber?
Palm oil is a cash-rich crop. So people are saying, why go with this traditional model?
Planters Association isn't averse to the idea.
We expect that all should agree to continue this crop.
It's official. Prime Minister set to testify before the PSC in the first week of next month. All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Sunday, the 20th of July 2019.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා fairness වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ fairness standard එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Well, a very good evening and welcome to First at 9 on AdaDerana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now, after much deliberation on the subject, it's been confirmed that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will be testifying before the Parliamentary Select Committee probing Easter Sunday attacks on the 6th of next month. Member of the Select Committee, Parliamentarian Professor Ashu Marasinghe confirmed the news to AdaDerana and said that the official summons will be sent to the Premier tomorrow. Several other ministers will also be testifying at the committee on the day, such as the Defence Minister Ruwan Wijewardena, Minister Sagar Ratnayaka and Ranjith Maduma Bandara. The Parliamentary Select Committee is currently in the process of recording evidence from a number of parties with regard to the Easter Sunday terror attacks. Now, the committee is expected to submit its final report before the end of August. Well, Attorney General Dappala De Oliveira insists that vigorous sentencing and speedy trials are what's required in the country at the present, since it is high time to instill fear of crime. The Attorney General is of the view that this can successfully be achieved if the justice system is able to deliver quality justice as expected. At a function held in Kandy, De Oliveira expressed his determination to what he termed clean his house, saying its effects will be felt across other institutions as well.
Justice delayed is justice denied. That is the call to deliver speedy justice and quality justice. Let the rule of law prevail in this country. And for that, due process should reign. Whatever you do, wherever you are, ensure that due process is followed. If you follow that, you uphold equality. You have to instill the fear of crime. That can only happen if the system can deliver justice. People don't fear crime any longer in this country because the system is not geared to instill that fear. Sentencing should be rigorous. Trial should be speedily held. Justice should be delivered quickly. A democracy cannot survive without the prevalence of the rule of law. So my first priority is to clear my house. I will clear it soon. While clearing my house, the impact of that will be felt to and on other institutions. These key institutions should clear their houses and do it quickly, without fear or favor. If you are acting according to law, there is nothing to fear because the law will protect you. So to act according to law, you have to have that independence. So that is up to you to cultivate that independence.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe assures rapid progress in the country's development if the public gives him and his party a full mandate in the next election. Speaking at an event in Bamalapitiya today, the Premier expressed confidence in his party's ability to deliver, saying that his government made incredible strides despite being a minority government.
අපි ආණ්ඩුවක් ගත්තේ සුළුතර ආණ්ඩුවක්. We took over a minority government. We firstly attempted to establish a government of good governance with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, but then I decided to go it alone and complete the term and also to hold the presidential election. We somehow managed the government. When I gave Minister Ganta Karunatilaka the land ministry, he started to give away land deeds. If a minority government can accomplish this, why couldn't the previous government with a two-thirds majority do it? Will a group that failed to build houses for 10 years be able to do it in a better fashion? The government, which had a majority, lost GSP Plus and were isolated by the world. Can such a group run a country once more? No matter under what banner they contest from, they are an unsuccessful bunch. The question is whether you will grant this minority government a majority next time to accomplish many more things with rapid growth moving forward. Since we came so far with a minority government, imagine what we can accomplish with a majority government. We will complete the work in just 2 years.
New district organisers for the Sri Lanka Freedom Party were appointed by party chairman President Maithripala Sirisena today. New organisers for the districts of Kurunagala, Puttalam, Gampaha, Ratnapura, Trincomalee, Ampara and Batticaloa received their letters of appointment from the President. Former Chief Ministers Dharmasiri Dasanayake and Atula Vijayasinghe meanwhile were appointed to the Kuliapitiya and Bingiri electorates respectively. Parliamentarian Shriyani Vijay Vikrama was appointed as electorate organiser for Ampara. Opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa is hopeful that foreign nations will not interfere in the looming elections. Addressing a public forum at his Carlton residence in Tangor today, he looked back on the last presidential election and moved to remind people that foreign nations played a part in his defeat.
There are those from the middle class who managed to climb up to the upper class. We have come to a position where businesses have crumbled and are in debt because people do not have money in their hands. All of you must be aware of the assistance given by other countries to secure my defeat. They may provide their assistance this time as well, but hopefully they will not interfere as much as they did before. Foreign nations do not have the right to meddle with our country's political and internal affairs. Therefore, we request that they do not interfere.
A special meeting was held between the Prime Minister and the Muslim MPs at Temple Trees today. When quizzed about what was discussed at the meeting, UMP parliamentarians Faisal Qasim and Mujibur Rahman said that various issues faced by the parliamentarians were resolved by the Prime Minister and discussions pertaining to their ministerial positions were a success. They further noted that the President will now have to announce a time and date when the reinstatement will take place, which they are hopeful will be tomorrow or the day after. Parliamentarian Rahman also confirmed that MP Rishad Badruddin will be amongst those who will be reinstated. The resignation of all Muslim public representatives of the government from their respective portfolios come at a time when the public outcry against MP Rishad Badruddin's alleged links to the Easter Sunday terrorists. The announcement on their intent to resign was made at Temple Trees on the 3rd of last month. We live in a time and age where the world is drowning in plastic pollution. The United Nations say only 9% of all plastic waste ever produced has been recycled, while 79% of plastic has accumulated in landfills, dumps or the natural environment. Sri Lanka too has its fair share of plastic waste related issues and has found it difficult to manage. We came across Hasanka Paduka, a young social entrepreneur who founded Zero Trash in a bid to provide a solution to the issue. Now, his idea was simple: to bridge the gap between recyclers and households. This is his story.
We live in a world where plastic consumption is inevitable, and what's more, it's on the increase along with the global population. What's worse, however, is that half of all plastic produced is designed to be used only once and then discarded. Statistics show that we produce about 30 million tons of plastic waste every year, which, if we put into context, is nearly equivalent to the weight of the entire human population. 60% of these plastics, however, end up in either a landfill or the natural environment, prompting scientists to warn that the continuation of the current trend will result in our oceans containing more plastics than fish by the year 2050. Sri Lanka is already suffering from the devastating impacts of pollution, with an efficient waste management system also lacking. The Mithuramulla catastrophe is a classic example of the country's issues stemming from waste. Sri Lanka is also faced with plummeting fish stocks owing to microplastics being released to the seas, leading to extensive marine pollution. That said, there are, however, a handful of groups who aim to become the solution than part of the problem. Young social entrepreneur Hasanka Padukka founded Zero Trash in February this year with the aim of creating awareness on trash management by recycling and upcycling plastic and glass items. He is involved in all the operations from collecting waste to establishing partner networks.
Basically, I have seen and I have felt there's a gap in between household and recycler. So in order to fulfill and make sure there's a smooth operation running on in the supply chain, so I working as a recycler transporter. 700 metric tons of plastic waste are being pulled into landfills, ocean, or even people burn them. So I saw a huge environmental issue on this. So individually, consciously, I took a decision, what can I do against this issue? There are different sort of plastic materials, so we can't send all the plastic materials for straight away to recycler. What we have to do is we have to sort those, and then only you are allowed to send this to recycler.
With his innovative idea put into action, co-founder of Zero Trash, Hasanka Padukka moots a communal approach to address Sri Lanka's long-running waste management issue.
We need to take actions to fix the climate issues. So pollution is the biggest challenge which we are facing and we are yet to face. So team up, think different and find simple solutions in your own community level to fix this.
The group aims to recycle 600,000 kilograms of waste by 2030 and also develop and find more eco-friendly solutions to reduce the garbage pulled for landfills. This initiative is an example for both young and old, showing that innovative thinking coupled with will can contribute to the protection of the environment in ways that one might not think possible.
Now, teacher shortages is a sensitive topic in Sri Lanka, where some say it is in fact the opposite, saying there is a concentration of teachers in cities who are not keen on working at rural schools. We came across a story where an English teacher at a rural school in Balangoda volunteering his time and efforts for the betterment of his students. What is most significant is that his efforts are evidently bearing fruit.
Students of Veerasekara Vidyalaya in Pollamura of Veligapola travelled to school during wee hours of the morning with the help of light coming from lit coconut prongs. Veerasekara Vidyalaya is a rural school with just 128 students from grades 1 to 11. Amidst various hardships, the only English teacher of the school, together with a member of the non-academic staff and a past student, worked towards improving the English language skills of these 128 students. What's more, their efforts are not invested in expectation of financial benefits.
I think that internet is not suitable for us, because if you think about internet, there are so many bad things in the internet.
Actually, we have a very good knowledge because of our English teachers. They do a very good service to this school.
We can learn English, and not only English but also we can learn our life also.
Good morning all of you. I like to tell about myself. I am Lashmi. I am from Pollamura. I want to be a doctor one day. Thank you.
We conduct one class at 5 a.m. and two more at 5:30 in the morning. Our school came first from 130 schools in the recently held debate competition in the Balangoda division.
At a time where teachers prioritize tuition classes over school education, these teachers who volunteer and sacrifice their time and efforts for the betterment of students truly are role models.
On to other local news. Minister of Power and Energy Ravi Karunanak is optimistic that Sri Lanka will have the ability to contribute towards inter-exchange of nuclear power amongst SAARC nations. Addressing a workshop organised under the Sri Lankan branch of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the minister, however, highlighted the considerable cost of nuclear power generation as the only prohibiting factor.
A 3-day workshop in economic and financing for a possible nuclear power program organised by Sri Lanka Atomic Energy Board commenced yesterday under the patronage of Minister of Power and Energy and Business Development Ravi Karunanak. The workshop is expected to initiate a roadmap for a nuclear power program in Sri Lanka with input from 3 French and British nuclear experts along with other officials.
Little Sri Lanka is caught up with its own financial problems. So looking at when we have installed capacity of 4,200 in generation, looking at atomic power is something which is in the distant future. We find agriculture, areas of health, all of them have the atomic powers or the atomic relativeness being used. We are certainly there to assist, but our only prohibiting factor is the financial cost. It's just that because I said that it's prohibitive does not mean that we don't want it. You professionals have to tell us, and then only we'll get kick-started moving in that direction. Sometimes our input may be limited, but with the SAARC region, with the inter-exchange of power generations between the SAARC countries, these are the areas which we'll be able to take advantage of. India has its own atomic powers that are there. It's not only using here, it can be using from there to here and cross, supply one another.
And with that, we cross over to a short commercial break, but make sure you stay tuned for more local news right after that. Minister of Plantation Industries Navi Disanayake is disappointed with little return the plantation sector has been able to gain when considering the fact that the investment is $5 billion. With that being the case, Minister Disanayake believes cause for oil palm expansion should be explored as an alternative, with Sri Lanka facing tough decision in the plantation sector over the next 5 to 6 years.
There is a very, very strong entrepreneurial culture in the coconut industry. So we have to get out of the way, I think, actually, the government. And I love that entrepreneurial culture to thrive and prosper and reduce the amount of bureaucracy and red tape that the government brings. So even the coconut sector, I feel, there has to be more robust and innovative thinking. But those solutions must be sustainable solutions that will benefit all sectors of the industry. There is thinking that let these crops be standalone crops. Why do you need ministries? Plantation should be essentially be private sector driven initiatives like other countries. And I heard this argument so many times while the state was heavily involved in the plantation sector at that time. It is no longer involved. There are new models that are constantly evaluated and discussed. If you look at the subsidies, funds that are going into the coconut cultivation board, to the tea sector, to the rubber sector, it's altogether about $5 billion. The return is not that much compared to the investment that we have made. So there is a real problem there. So then we have to ask optimum land utilization. Some people are saying, look, use this land for some other crops. We have seen that happening in the rubber sector because now some estates, they want that land for palm oil. So it's a very sensitive issue because as you know, palm oil is a cash-rich crop. Returns are immediate. So people are saying, why go with this traditional model? If you can contain the ecological problems with palm oil, why not open up palm oil instead of rubber? I'm sure in the future this might come to the coconut sector also. So I just want you to be alive to these arguments. And there will be a time when we have to understand the actual scientific basis and the models for planting. I'm looking at maybe 5 to 6 years we will have to make some hard decisions.
In the meantime, Planters Association of Ceylon is also of the view that oil palm as a crop should be expanded and accepted into the mainstream plantation sector. Sri Lanka is not new to the oil palm industry, and this year marked its 50th anniversary in the island. Although that's the case, skepticism has been rife over oil palm expansion. The Planters Association, however, says that prices of Sri Lanka's traditional crops are on the slide and oil palm may well be a viable alternative.
Previous regime itself, there was a understanding that we should go up to at least 20,000 hectares of oil palm being grown in Sri Lanka. And currently, extent stands at about 11,000 hectares. So there is a possibility of expanding this up to 20,000, which was worked out on a per capita consumption of edible oil, and which also will help to save a lot of unnecessary foreign exchange being spent on importation of edible oil. Plantation companies, we always want to see a crop balance, a crop mix, so that the viability and the economies of scale could be maintained. There are fluctuations in commodity markets which is beyond our control. There's almost about 130,000 workers employed in all the regional plantation companies. Today, tea, rubber, even coconut prices are really low, and it's quite difficult to sustain the industry. So there is a necessity of diversification, but as I told you, it is not done haphazardly. It has been very well organized and done. About 3 to 4 years ago, they suspected certain other fungal diseases or whatever that could be brought into Sri Lanka because all the seed has to be imported. Because of that, certain restrictions came in. And there's a process today. Those days, private companies could import direct, but now it has to go through the Coconut Research Institute, the ministry, and they give approval. So based on these approvals, certain amount of seed were brought into the country and the nurseries were set up. Unfortunately, today's context, we have plants of almost 400 million worth in the nurseries, which cannot be put out because of these issues. There is no subsidy actually from the government or anyone for this crop, unlike tea or rubber. It's all borne by the shareholders who own these companies, and you would no doubt realize what a damage it would be if we have to write off this 400 million in our books. We expect that all should agree to continue this crop, which is required at this point in time.
Market analysts expect a weak to moderate turnover levels at the Colombo Bourse during the upcoming week. By the end of the trading on Friday, the All Share Price Index gained 2.8%, while the S&P 20 increased by 5.9%. We have Dimantha Matthew from First Capital Holdings with your market forecast for next week.
We expect a bit of a slowness in both the debt and equity capital markets. In the bond market, with the heavy dip in interest rates, we expect a bit of a correction in the overbought areas, specifically in the short end of the yield curve. Buying interest, however, is likely to remain in the mid-tenor maturity, specifically 2023, 2024 and 2025 yields. In the stock market, we continue to expect a slowness in the market with a possible correction. The weak corporate results that are getting released is likely to support the weakness in the market as well. Retail activity, however, is likely to be the dominant factor in the market, while the turnover levels are likely to be low to moderate levels with a bit of selling pressure.
Senior ministers of the British Parliament have said today that the British government is working on the assumption that the European Union will not renegotiate its Brexit deal and is ramping up preparations to leave the bloc on the 31st of October without an agreement. Boris Johnson, who took over as British Prime Minister on Wednesday with a promise to deliver Brexit by the end of October without ifs or buts, plans to seek a new exit deal with the EU. The EU has said repeatedly that the deal cannot be reopened. Meanwhile, leading Brexit supporter Michael Gove, who Johnson has put in charge of no-deal preparations, wrote in the Sunday Times, a newspaper, that the government would undertake intensive efforts to secure a better deal from the EU. And that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.